Year 11, welcome to your quick revision video for your Edexcel English Language GCSE paper. Section 1 is of mice and men. If you are on the foundation paper, your first question is for 3 marks. Now, all you need to do on this question is write down a one-word quotation and the word class. For example, you might write down the word Lenny as your quotation. Then you write down the word class, noun. For example, you might write walked, verb, or green, adjective. You do 3 one-word quotations with the word class. You are allowed to repeat the same word class, so you can do 3 nouns, you can do 3 adjectives, you can do 3 verbs, but it's a very quick and easy 3 marks to pick up, so try not to make any mistakes. Then you will have the 13-mark question, which is about the extract provided, and it is about language. Nowhere does it ask you to retell plot. We all know what happens in Of Mice and Men. You are being asked to analyse the words John Steinbeck uses. Then you'll have your 24-mark question, which will ask you to find another section of the novel to analyse. If you are on the higher paper, you don't have the 3-mark question. You have a 16-mark question, which is about the extract provided. As I've just said previously, do not retell the plot. Analyse language, individual words, whole sentences. What is the impact of the words John Steinbeck has selected? The 24-mark question, again, as I've previously said, you need to find another section of the novel to comment on. It is worth knowing the plot inside out. The examiner recommends that you read the book 4 times. Do so. When you are finding another section of the novel for 24 marks, you need to pick a section you can write about in detail, which is why you need to know the plot very well, okay? When answering these language questions as well, you must write in paragraphs. People always forget and they just write a good long analysis of the language and forget paragraphs. God, this is an English exam. Write in paragraphs, okay? Okay, the writing paper. I wanted to focus a little bit more on this because we haven't done anything like the writing paper before. We've done our little exam. The writing paper is where you are solely judged on your writing. The writing paper is broken down like this. You are potentially awarded 16 marks for the structure, the form, the content and the organisation of your piece. Okay? You are given a mark out of 8 for your spelling, punctuation, grammar and sentence types. So if we look at the 16 marks, you need to be writing in paragraphs. Okay? You need to have the correct format. If they want a letter, you need to set it out as a letter. If they want a magazine article, you need a title. You might even use subheadings. If you don't use the form that they are asking for, you are jeopardising potentially a higher grade. Obviously, on the writing paper, we must check our work carefully. Okay? I'm going to come back to this in a second. So, how do we succeed on the writing paper? Well, first of all, you need to plan your answer. Why? Right, well, it allows you to structure your thoughts. If you just go straight into the question without giving it a second thought, 1, you're under pressure because it's an exam, and 2, all of your thoughts, just fall out of your head and then it's not organised. You haven't really thought through what you're saying and it becomes a bit of a mess and it's not cohesive. So make a plan, whether that be a spider diagram, a few bullet points, I don't know, whatever is best for you. But please plan, just very quickly, couple of minutes. Write down as well things you know you're going to include, like a forest. And then it reminds you, look back at your plan, right, I'm going to write about this now. I'm going to write about this. I'm going to conclude with this idea. And you can go back and check your plan. The examiner can see your plan as well and see what types of things you are going to say. And if you run out of time, what things you could have said. You must check the purpose of the question. If the question is asking you to persuade, Obviously, you're going to have to be persuasive. If it wants you to advise, we need advice. Okay, you have to adhere to the purpose of what you are being asked. Because again, if you aren't reading the question properly, you won't be picking up the correct marks. So ensure that the purpose, you understand the purpose and that you stick to the purpose. There's nothing worse than just rambling on and not answering the question. Format. As I said previously, if they ask you to write a letter, it needs to be structured in that way. Dear Sir/Madam, or to whom it may concern, and then yours faithfully, yours sincerely at the end. They are checking that you've read the question and understood. If they want a magazine article, it needs a heading, a catchy heading. Break it up into subheadings. You must stick to the format that is asked. If it asks for a podcast or a speech, it needs to sound like somebody's listening. So you might start with, hello listeners and welcome to... You've got to stick to the format that they are asking for. Don't just write. We need a variety of sentence types. If you're writing simple sentences for the entire thing, well, again, you're limiting the mark you're going to achieve. You've got to be using a mixture of your simple sentences, your compound sentences, your complex sentences. Simple sentences are brilliant for that punch and for that effect. When we want to say something that the reader will remember, use a simple sentence. Your complex sentence, again, which goes on to my next point, we can use a variety of sentence starters. The likelihood is we'll be writing in complex sentences. We don't just want and, also, then, also, in addition. We want a variety. There's numerous different ways of starting a sentence. You might have your fronted adverbial. You might have a time connective. You might have a normal connective like furthermore. We might have an ed. We might have an adjective. Vary your sentence openings. Really grab the reader. Manipulating your sentences, again, to suit the reader is probably where you're going to be picking up more marks, depending on what you see, obviously. If I go back to simple sentences and paragraphing together, you can manipulate your paragraphs. I know when we're younger we're taught change paragraph when you change topic, and that's fine. But when you are, in a GCSE exam, a writing paper in English, we've got to start thinking very carefully about where we can manipulate the reader. One-word sentences, one-word paragraphs, for that extra punch. Simple sentences that are a paragraph on their own. John Steinbeck does it in Of Mice and Men. He poured up the hay. Is a sentence, a paragraph all by itself for that extra punch, for the reader to notice. So think about how you are paragraphing, and is it adding meaning or is it just boring? Because what we don't want is your writing to come across as boring, okay? It goes without saying that our spelling really needs to be spot on here. When you're getting a mark for your spelling, you've got to be spelling common words correctly. Complex words, have a go at using, yes. Even if you spell them wrong, chances are, it's going to look better because you're using the right vocabulary. In an ideal world, we need to be spelling accurately all of the time. How can we do that? Well, we should be reading at home. We should be reading at home all the time. I'm sure your English teachers have been telling you that since year 7. Okay, reading at home for 20 minutes. The more you see words, the easier they are to spell. And my last point is your writing has to be creative. Think about it from an examiner's perspective. They're sitting marking hundreds of exam papers. You're going to hand them a boring piece that they're not going to remember. Well, it's not helping yourself. Be creative. Be ambitious in your writing. Like I've said, be creative in the vocabulary choices you make. Use metaphor. Use one-word paragraphs. Use simple sentences as a paragraph. Be creative. Make the examiner remember what you have said. Okay? I hope this was useful. And good luck in the exam.